too much. It's too much.
It's too much. Yeah. Everyone was like 50% complaining about the rain, 50% like, we need this. This is so good. We need this.
That literally happens every time it rains in Texas. You go outside and it raining, you'll hear that at least 8 times. It's so annoying.
We really needed this, It's like,
I know.
Yeah, it's the same people that are like, oh my God, I can't believe it's June already. You're like, yeah.
Well,
cool.
Look, that's why I'm moving up to nice, warm, dry Seattle.
Oh yeah, dude. No, I mean it's arid up there.
I'm just sick of the wet. I'm sick of the rain. I'm sick of it being so cold over here. I'm finally I'm gonna be by the beach.
Yeah, man, you're gonna be in the desert of Seattle.
Yeah.
You're tired of lush greenery all around you all the time, so that's good.
Yeah, if that were around here, I'd be tired of that too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna lie, man. Part of me wishes that we had moved to the Pacific Northwest rather than California.
Really?
Yeah, man. It's just I love the California vibe. Don't get me wrong. The weed here is great. Everything's great. It's just really expensive, and I can't help but feel anxiety every time I take a shower or I have to use the sink or whatever, because it's like this place is in a perpetual drought, and I'm just sitting here being like, man, when's this shit gonna dry up? When's it just gonna dry up and I'm not gonna have any more fucking water to drink?
I mean, I don't know.
You have an abundance of water in the Pacific Northwest. Like, you're never gonna have to worry about drought up there.
Yeah, it's rough. California's got a whole slew of kind of disasters happening all at once.
It has issues. The state has got.
It's got issues.
Sure. Yeah.
You're kind of the face of America, so you're kind of taking the full frontal force for everyone.
Oh yeah, I mean, every conservative for some reason hates California. That's like part of being conservative is for some reason you have to hate an entire state that you've never lived in or been to. And it's like they see California as like, that is the example of dystopian, like major government overlooking and oversights and blah blah. And like, you live here and it isn't the only difference between California and Texas to me, other than legal fucking weed, is that gas is double the price.
Yeah,
like,
great.
I paid $90 to fill up my tank here. Then in Austin it cost me $40. So that's a huge difference for me. But other than that, dude, like they're like, oh, the homeless people are just shitting on your windows. Every window has homeless shit covered on it here, blah, blah. And it's just like, have you ever been to California? Like, you ever drive around the conservative cities anywhere? You're telling me there's no fucking homeless people? Or like, are you guys so bored and have so much money for your police department that you just arrest all the homeless so no one has to look at them?
Yeah, right.
Like, to me, there's no fucking difference. So it's so funny to me that like one of the conservative bullet points is like, okay, are you conservative? A, do you love Trump? Yes. B, do you hate California? Yes. It's like always like the second one. Like I go to the conservative subreddit all the time and they're just talking shit about California. I'm just like, I don't understand the issue.
I feel like it's not even so progressive over there or anything.
It really isn't. Like we moved here with the idea that it was like the fucking Emerald City, like it was like the land of Oz here, where it's just everything's beautiful and golden and everyone is either gay or trans or, in a throuple or something. And
the good stuff.
Here, the good stuff, like we thought it was going to be way, way, way more progressive and way more liberal than it actually is.
Yeah, well, it's kind of the opposite story in Texas, right? Where it's like the big cities are all kind of liberal and everywhere else is conservative.
Yeah.
And you don't expect to walk into Austin and they have like these little bird scooters and these little eateries in the East, and these little cafes and
yeah. Oh my God, I feel so safe on the East side because like brown people used to live here, but now they don't because they can't afford it.
And now that we've finally pushed all the homeless people out of downtown,
yeah, where are they?
It's a mess, man. Our stuff over here regarding homeless people is absolutely a disaster, man.
Yeah, there's no system in place except like kick them out of their city, their little tent cities, and that's it.
Just put up spikes where they lay down and hope they go away, and that's like, ugh. It pisses me off, man. But whatever.
Yeah, if you can't tell already, listeners, we're becoming a political podcast. Like, eventually we're going to transition to that.
Yeah.
Like, Brett wants to be the new Tim Pool. I want to be the next Ben Shapiro.
Oh,
so,
boy.
We're doing our best.
But before we become a political podcast, I feel like we should at least end the year with music,
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Also, my big thing is the music is the least of what I like to talk about on this podcast too. So,
right. And so
I
that's
try
just
and
another
delay that
reason.
as much as possible.
Yeah. Well, that's why you haven't brought an album in for the last month.
That's true, but it's because we also have other plans.
Yep.
And on that note, what's up, buddies?
What's up, buddies?
And welcome to another episode of Earbuds, the podcast where two buds talk about one album for one time. And that's it.
Except for this episode and the last episode, the one before that, and the one after this.
And the one after, all right? We're doing something special here, but, it's because we're the pod couple of oddcasts, Like,
well, I honestly,
what
I
else
thought
would you
it was,
expect from us?
I thought it was more that we were the pod couple of oddcasts. Honestly.
Brett, agree to disagree, which I'm sure we're going to do a lot on this episode.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be nothing but contention in this episode.
Yeah, it might be the next Earfoes episode, another installment of Earfoes. We'll see. We'll find out.
We're going to let you guys know. This is the best of albums of the podcast of 2021. It's a very similar concept of the last episode where we talked about songs. This time, it's albums.
Yes, and we each picked 3 of our favorite records that we have talked about this year. Super excited to get into this. The Choice Nugs episode was really fucking fun. And really, I mentioned it several times on that episode because I got pretty high, which I'm going to do again now. But one of the fun parts is like, a lot of these songs and albums that we're both picking as our favorites, like we wanted to make it like we pick the other person's, like our favorite songs from album, like your favorite songs have been albums that I brought to the pod. My favorite songs were albums that you brought to the pod. And we're sort of doing the same thing with the albums and like our favorite albums of the year. And I'm really fucking excited to get into it, man.
Yeah, man. It's probably going to be pretty easy to know what my 3 albums are for this episode, but I don't know. You might be surprised. I'm pretty sure all your albums are different from your songs. Is that right?
They're definitely not one-to-one. Some of my favorite songs of the year did not come from my favorite albums, weirdly enough. Because for me, the albums it's a cohesive piece of work. It's like for me to have it be one of my favorite albums, it has to feel like an album. It can't just be like, 5 good songs and I love one of them a lot, and then that ends up being like, oh, because one of my favorite songs of the year is on this record, this must be one of my favorite records of the year. That's not always the case.
Well, I mean, for me over here, it seems like it was kind of the case that these albums that I love also happen to have my favorite songs in there. I don't think it's... I feel like that's probably the more common situation, is that you listen to these great albums and you hear that great song on that great album and you're like, oh, this one, that it's kind of the best of a great album. And so maybe that heightens it in my mind.
Yeah, I think what I was purposely trying to do too was I didn't want my favorite albums to be one-to-one, where my favorite songs came from, because part of me just wants to acknowledge some of the really good music that we listened to this year and got to talk about. And, it was too much good. It's a good problem to have. It was too much good shit to choose from that I'm like, okay, just because it's my favorite song, like let's say Tierra Whack, like Silly Sam and Pretty Ugly and all those, like, those were some of my favorite songs of the year. But Tierra Whack, it was a 15-minute long record. Like, I can't say that that alone to me couldn't be one of my favorite records of the year.
Right. And yeah, it's, you know, everyone has a different definition of what an album should even be. But just having cohesive, kind of having a theme is important. Not just being a thing you compile all your separate singles onto.
Exactly.
You know, and it's weird because sometimes it's not so easy to see the difference between those types of albums. Like an album that someone put work into figuring out the track list and the songs and the themes, and an album someone just had these 10 songs and threw it on an album.
Yeah, for sure. And that was the, you know, some of the criteria that I got into, like trying to pick my favorite records. And this was way, way harder for me to pick my favorite albums than it was to pick my favorite songs, which was kind of weird for me.
Well, you know what? I want to just get straight into it with your honorable mentions. Do you have any honorable mentions for your top 3?
I have a lot of honorable mentions, dude.
Pick your top 3.
Okay.
Your top 3 honorable mentions.
It was really hard for me to pick 3 albums over some other ones because a lot of them were right in line with each other. Like, one of mine that I had a hard time not putting in this list was Texas by Sleigh Bells.
Really?
I
felt you were... No, I do remember you giving it a weirdly high rating.
I loved that record, dude, and re-listening to it several times, trying to pick my, you know, top 3 of the year. It was hard not to include that one, man. Really hard.
Yeah. I mean, that was a really cool, just another Sleigh Bells record, kind of evolving from where we'd known they started. We haven't listened to too much of them before, or really since.
No, I mean, that's the thing is I hadn't listened to Texas since we listened to it for our episode, and you know, I kind of like I was scrolling through and I saw that one and I was just like, oh yeah, I remember liking that one a lot, and then I put it on, I was like, holy fuck, I forgot how good this is.
Right.
So yeah, man, Texas was a very close contender, and so was "Cause I Love You" by Lizzo. Oh.
Yeah, dude, that record is fantastic. Probably one of the better pop records to come out lately, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's kind of the same reasons that I love Sleigh Bells so much. Was I didn't expect to like it as much as I did.
Right.
I didn't expect to like Lizzo this much. I always loved her as a person and as a personality. I followed her on Instagram for years now. But yeah, I never really gave her music a chance, and I honestly just thought it wasn't for me, and it wasn't meant for me. And man, you forced me to listen to "Cause I Love You," and
yes, it did.
That was a really good record. And I will say for my last one, and this one probably pained me the most to not include on my list, was "Glow On" by Turnstile.
Oh man, oh boy.
I went back and forth. With that one. Really hard not to include it. And honestly, I think the only reason why I didn't was because there were a couple songs on there that I truly just didn't really care for that much. I can listen to them, but you know, they're not I can't listen to the whole record, and it's not a banger, the entire thing for me. Mm-hmm. But I just didn't want to have only rock albums in my top 3, you know?
Right.
I wanted to have we had a good mix of music this year, and I wanted to show that and kind of pay homage to some of the other genres that we listened to that we really liked. So yeah, man, those were my top 3, man. Turnstile, Lizzo, and Sleigh Bells were very, very close in the running for me. Like, what were your honorables?
Well,
I take a massive rip from my bone.
Hawk-eyed viewers may notice that we've included our shorties in this list. You may ask why we didn't include them for the last one, and that's not, you know, for you to question.
Yeah, it was by design, bitch. Fucking leave it alone.
I had 2 honorable mentions.
Only 2?
Yeah, not too many. Just because, like, I don't know, these 3 records that I picked are, like, super in my wheelhouse. I didn't really think about variety or anything. They're all kind of rocking.
I mean, I put that, that on myself, like to try and have a wide array of different types of music in my top choices, but it was very, very closely almost all rock music for me, man. So that is our wheelhouse.
Yeah, I mean that's my wheelhouse for sure. I'm not nearly as deep into rap as you are, or like reggae. I think I might be a little more into punk, and like now I'm getting into hyperpop, which is a whole other thing that I don't think we need to talk about yet. Maybe we could, maybe on the anniversary of when we release Pet Sounds, we could review 100 Gex's 1000 Gex.
Oh God,
that could be a great.
Make me listen to that album again.
Yep.
Oh Jesus.
But my honorable mentions. My first honorable mention is Circle of Demons by At All Cost.
Dude, that is never gonna stop surprising me that you have turned around on this record so much.
I turned around really hard on that one, man. I just
did
randomly,
a hard 90 degrees
on a whim, I just decided to listen to that album when we were reviewing all this stuff. I really didn't think much was going to happen, but I really came around. I dig the hardcore. I love the auto tune.
Yeah.
Weirdly good production for like an Austin band from the thousands or 90s or something.
The aughts. That album came out, I think, in 2007. I want to say 2006.
My second honorable mention is Malibu. Malibu.
So you were in a total 1-to-1 with your choice songs, because 2 of your choice songs were one from Malibu and one from At All Cost.
Well, you know what? I just now decided to switch some things around.
Oh, buddy. Well, Malibu, I gotta say, I feel bad, but a lot of my favorite albums that we did listen to this year were ones that technically I had brought into the pod.
Well, yeah.
So Malibu being one of them, I really wanted to put that up like as a choice album, man, and I didn't get to. And that kind of, it did suck a little bit for me, because it's not like all the albums that I brought onto the podcast were ones that I had listened to before. Like wasn't always the case, and Malibu was one of them. I had not really heard that record before I brought it on, and man, did I fucking love that album.
Yeah, man, super smooth. Anderson is one of the best, like, personalities, one of the best just artists in the game right now, as Bruno can prove.
Yeah, for sure. You can hear Anderson smiling, like, in all of his songs.
Oh yeah,
you can hear it in his voice, and I love that guy. Like, just seeing him makes me smile.
Personality through the roof.
Just fucking to the nines with that guy, man. I love that guy.
If you'd allow me to start with my number 3 album, I think this is one that you really wanted to include on your list.
Let's do it. Let's talk about it.
All right, my number 3 choice for best album that we've talked about on the podcast is Infest, the Rat's Nest.
That was I love that record so much, and it was so painful for me not to be able to include it, man.
King Gizzard and the Lizard Wizard coming out with so much stuff out of nowhere, a metal album. I think it was only 3 or 4 of them that made the songs on this album, if I remember correctly.
I'm pretty sure Stu, the singer, wrote the majority of the record.
And they just had a drummer and like the bassist and some synth on some parts, and it was such a very different kind of project for them, I think.
Man, this record, it was weirdly enough, because when we talked about putting it on the pod, I'd only heard like 2 songs from it. I think Self-Immolate and Planet B, and that was like 2 years ago or something, and somehow I still hadn't sat down and actually listened to this record, despite how much those 2 songs blew me away and got me so excited for like a thrash fucking stoner metal. I don't even want to say stoner metal. To me, it's like more thrash, just grimy as fuck.
It kind of just feels like an 80s thrash album.
It does, man.
And it's I mean, it's so choice. A lot of really catchy songs. When you hear 80s thrash metal record, don't don't underestimate it either.
Yeah, don't go into it with any preconceived notions, really, because it's a hard record to describe the sound.
Yeah, it's very kind of smoky. I would describe it, a smoky sounding record. It's grainy, it's dusty, it's dirty.
Yeah, it's so just like nasty, dude.
It's nasty. It's nasty.
Fucking nasty. I mean, like the way that Stu sings the whole time with his
Yeah.
There were so many moments on this record that just blow me away, man. How this band can be the same band that wrote Polygondwana Land. It's crazy to me, and it did pain me so much that I could not pick this record.
Well, buddy, I did it for you. You know.
And were you a big fan of King Gizzard like before the pod?
You know, at the time, I was kind of indifferent to them. I had a little stigma in my head because y'all were always talking about them. And
yeah, you're like, why aren't you guys talking about me more?
yeah, I was like, why don't you talk about my music that I make instead of this gizzard fella? But
instead of this king that you guys
king
are
whatever.
obsessed with.
But I've gotten more into them over the year, and I'm super into them now. I'm looking forward to each release.
Yeah.
They released 2 albums this year. Now, I'm not going to say anything, but I am going to say that maybe one of those albums is going to be in our award ceremony.
Yeah, I have a very good chance, or I have a very good feeling it will be.
And this record just delivers, man. It's exactly what you need when you need this kind of record. It's got Hell, Self-Immolate, Planet B, Superbug, amongst
man.
Mars for the Rich. I mean, there's not a bad song on this record.
Yeah, there really isn't, man. Like, Superbug, Organ Farmer, Perihelion. I mean, I listened to Planet B and Hell when we were, because we're trying to pick like our favorite intros and outros.
Yeah.
And they're both like Planet B and Hell both ended up on both of those lists for me. It's just like from end to end, this record is brutal and fun and catchy and
a little
goofy and such a delight to listen to. Like none of these descriptions that we're using make you think that the album's gonna production wise going to sound good, but it does.
You can only listen to it and then you will kind of get it. It just makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, if that tells you anything, listeners, buddies, if you have not heard this record, it's Brett's number 3 of the year. We talked about almost 50 albums this year, if not more.
Yep.
So that should tell you something. Fuck yeah, man. I was hoping that'd be on your list.
Well, tell me, man, about your number 3.
Superbug. All right, well,
my blood.
I had a hard time, dude, and I had to pick one hip hop record because we listened to a lot of goodies, and if Tierra Whack isn't going to be on there, if Little Sims isn't going to be on there, if the Little Sims record was not as good the second time around, I gotta say. I don't know if you've re-listened to it, but it didn't hit me as hard.
Yeah, I re-listened to it. I thought it was good, and then I listened to Gray Area again. It was like, wow,
so much better.
That was such a good album, and I get that she was trying to go for a more grandiose thing, and
yeah,
like it's not like the songs are bad by any means, but
man, the first time we listened to it, we fucking loved it.
Oh yeah,
but I gotta say, dude, this record hit me way harder. I've listened to it probably fucking 10 times since we talked about it on the podcast. It is ignorant as fuck, but I think in a tongue-in-cheek way. It is Shut the Fuck Up Talking to Me by Zach Fox.
Shut the fuck up talking to me.
Dude, and I mean, much less, Alchemist fucking, produces the title track off the record, that's not enough to make me love it. But this album, dude, I still laugh listening to these songs.
It's just a goofy, fun record. It's just fun, man. You put it on like at a party and you just dance and don't even think about it.
Yeah, because you have a lot of like different vibes on this, which is one of the reasons why I liked it a lot, because you go from really trappy beats to like super gangster fucking talking about shooting Uzis, and then you go to shit like Fafo and
Fuck around, find out.
Man, like Mind Your Business. Like Mind Your Business has this great like 90s like kind of cheesy hip hop beat going, and then you have Get Off My Dick, which is a hilarious song, and dude, he has a line shitting on all these ends like I got two butts.
Oh my god, dude.
He has some of the best lines on this record. I mean, and then you have like Fafo that has like a super stonery beat and everything. Like him talking about he's so broke he's eating oxygen sandwiches. I mean, there are so many lines. This is just one-liner after one-liner, and it's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, I think Zach Fox is just one of those like casually hilarious dudes who doesn't even need to try. You know?
Yeah. He has this this effortless cool to him.
And that's all fine and good. And I'm sure he's a good person. I'm sure he's great. But he sure doesn't deserve any of these beats.
I was going through my notes listening to this record, and I remembered you saying that. Like, this motherfucker does not deserve this good of music on his record, because this is basically his debut album, right?
Yeah. He's released a couple singles before. I don't think he was seriously going for it, and this thing just dropped out of seemingly nowhere to me.
Dude, banger beats throughout the whole thing. It made me wish I had fucking subwoofers in my brain.
And there's also like a lot of, interestingly, there's a lot of horror vibes on this record.
Yeah, like on Bane, like that grimy ass fucking beat.
Yeah,
like it sounds like a blown out speaker, and like walking down the block like Bane, walking down the block like Bane. Like he has this horror aesthetic throughout the whole thing that just made me love it too. Just like Infest the Rat's Nest,
right? Except in a wholly different way.
Yeah, totally different way. But man, he has this great like fake tough guy personality on this record, and I gotta say it's fake because to me he's a comedian. He's not a rapper, but he's so believable, and he's so convincing in his lyrics, despite them being really fucking funny, that you're like, I can't tell if this is satire or not. And that's another reason why I love this record.
Ugh. Yeah, man.
I don't know if it's supposed to be funny, but it's fucking hilarious.
No, it's funny. It's funny. It is what it is, and I don't think he was trying to go for too much more. But we'll see. We'll see if he releases another record.
I would love to hear another one by him, man, because I was really, really blown away by how much I liked this one. I did not think I was gonna like this at all.
Also, like really short, like 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, you know, it's only 7 minutes longer than Tierra Whack's album. It's 22 minutes long, but I can't deny the bangerness of this record.
Bangness.
This record is just reverberates off the walls, man. You listen to this with really good headphones, and it fucking makes your eardrums gyrate.
Makes your eardrums and your booty gyrate.
I can't help it, man. And I'm like beating down the block like Bane. Like I'm singing along to every single thing, all the lines that I can catch, because he's just going off on every song. But there's so many great references, like all these 90s like TV and wrestling references, and all these like, you know, calling out other rappers, like paying homage to them. And there's so much to love about this record. And even stuff like Boy, I'm on Your Ass, which is I think probably like one of the weaker songs on the record, but that beat has this like boy 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 boy, and I know that I know what that sound is from, what that sample is from, but I can't figure it out. But it's a sample that I know it's from something that is gonna make me laugh once I figure out what it's from, so it makes me like it.
Dang. Well,
I thought that would surprise you a little bit that I picked that one.
It did. It definitely did.
Yeah.
But Zach Fox just kind of surprised everyone, I think.
Yeah, and I mean, you remember when we listened to it on the shorty, I didn't I give it like a 9.2 or some shit?
Yeah, you have a tendency to just rate these shorties way too high.
Dude, I gotta tell you, man, like, now you know when you're looking at my year long of album reviews, it's like my first impression, I either fucking love it or hate it most of the time.
That's
You
true.
know? So, like, that's what, like, Little Sims, I loved it. I must have given it a 9 point something, maybe a high 8 on that episode, but then re-listening to it, it definitely didn't hit as hard, you know? And I know a lot of these records would do that. Like a lot of these shorties, it's like I go back to it and I'm like, oh, maybe I was a little too hard on this, or like, wow, I was stoned and fucking loved this, and it was just like the mood and the setting and everything just matched up perfectly for me to love this record, you know?
Right.
Which is the case for a lot of these things. So that's why, like, Zach Fox, it stood the test of time, man. I listened to that in a lot of different settings and a lot of different moods, and I loved it every time.
Well, let me tell you about the album that I loved every time as well, in different settings and all that.
Your numero 2.
Look,
Hear me out.
look at me, look me in the eyes. Don't smoke right now. Can we just
Damn
glow
it.
on
Fine.
right now?
Fine. Huh?
Can we just glow on right now?
Oh, buddy, thank you.
My number
Thank you,
2
Brett.
album of the podcast is "Glow On" by Turnstile. I was
Like
reluctant.
it's a holiday.
I was reluctant to put this on the list just because it was a shorty, and I felt bad that it wasn't like an album Lucas chose. But Lucas's first album that he brought up wasn't mine either, so it's fine.
Yeah, man, it's not gonna. It's, you know, I might have a few shorties on my list.
Oh shit.
I mean, you got to think though. Zach Fox, you suggested that one.
That's true.
You know,
That's
so
true.
that technically was a recommendation.
Still gonna take
by
the
you.
credit for it.
The Turnstile record, like, I was so fucking excited to hear this album, and dude, it kind of blew us away.
I was room temp. I was lukewarm at best to
I
listen
knew
to
you
this
were. I knew you were, man.
because I checked them out before and I thought they didn't really have much to pull me in, and then this record comes on and mystery happens, and then the riff for Blackout comes in, and the beat
Amazing.
comes in with the different percussive instruments, and this record just blew us away, man. Every track, it was like the most like YouTube like whoa kind of like first reaction thing.
Yeah, you could have taken a year's worth of thumbnails from our fucking reactions to
Oh
this.
yeah.
Yeah, man. Mystery opens up like such a cool 90s grungy vibe to it. And then you go into Blackout and they have that like fucking Latin vibe in Blackout.
Yeah.
Man, this album really, really, really impressed me.
Oh yeah, man. It's such a cool record. I'm excited to see if anyone is influenced by this. I certainly am. I've already written a
Yeah.
couple songs for my punk band Burn Band that have kind of taken inspiration from this.
Really?
Yeah, and just like I love the Latin grooves incorporated with the punk vibes and like the kind of hardcore tendencies.
Oh yeah, man. They have some hardcore. Their hardcore moments are really fun on this record. But what got me into Turnstile was their brand of hardcore punk. Like, I am just now, maybe in the last like year and a half, like getting into hardcore punk and finally giving it a chance, like that and thrash. And when I found these guys, I'm like, oh, this is my brand. This is like the
My brand.
type of, yeah, this is the type of hardcore punk I want to listen to forever. And they blew me away on the, you know, a couple of the records I listened to maybe earlier this year. And I got so excited when I saw TLC. I like saw it on Instagram.
Yeah.
And I was like, holy shit, this record's going to be even better than the ones I've heard by them already. And I did not expect to hear so much Latin influence on
No.
this. I didn't expect to hear so much bedroom pop influence on this.
Yeah.
And almost like new wave in some of the guitar tones.
Yeah. I mean that combination of kind of new wave, post punk, bedroom pop, all that stuff.
The they really just like kept you guessing, man. There's not a lot of music that will. I feel like we both have heard so much fucking music that we can kind of predict where songs are gonna go.
Yeah, not at all with this record.
Not at all.
It kept us on our toes. There were a couple songs that maybe were a little filler. There were some other songs that maybe you didn't like what they did. I liked it. I liked they had a couple softer songs. That
Yeah, like Alien Love Call.
Alien Love Call, yeah.
Yeah.
As well as the last song was a little kind of not exactly the climax, the ending that we were hoping for.
It's very odd. They fade out and then come fade back in and end the song. It's a very weird outro.
Yeah. But that
But
being
stuff
said,
like Underwater Boy, I love Underwater Boy, and that's a slower song. It's fucking great.
it's got a long way to go
So catchy.
underwater. Oh yeah, I love it. The singer's voice I didn't really care for until this record, and I think I finally got it.
Okay.
I understood what he was doing.
Well, he's singing a lot more on Glow On than their previous stuff. You know, he was doing hardcore punk, so he's kind of just like yelling at you on some of the older records. Like, you listen to Holiday, this is a fucking straight up, like, this is a radio single.
Yeah, so
like, it's a holiday!
but I'm everything I want to celebrate.
I love that riff.
So many good riffs on here. So many great,
So many good.
so many fantastic songs. I can't. It almost hurt me to put this as number 2, but number 1 is there for a very big reason. So let's just hurry up and get to it.
Just get to it, man. I just want to call out also "Fly Again" is a song because I listened to this to Glow On. I listened to this record like 5 times in the last week, trying to figure out if I'm going to put it in my top 3. And some of the songs that I disliked when we listened to it the first time, I like a lot more now.
Oh, well, that's good.
And the ones that I love even more. So this record was a very, very close, like, number 2 or 3 for me.
Dang, so what was your number 2 that beat this thing out?
Man, you know, it was another Shorty. It was one that I was really, really excited to listen to, and one that really blew me away with how different the music was than I expected it to be.
Oh, it's Crawler by Idols.
Yeah, dude.
Yep. I knew the second that I saw this thing on upcoming albums, like, well, yep, that's what that album's going to be. Lucas is going to go gaga for this thing.
Are you not a huge Idols fan? You're not, right?
No, I'm not a huge Idols fan. I think I get what they're doing and I'm for it, but I'm never really in a mood for it. Like, there are definitely some songs that I really like by Idols, but usually their stuff is pretty, like, all right, it was pretty good, but nothing that I'm gonna listen to more than 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, this record, I had to step away from it for a little while after we talked about it on the Shorty, because it's a really heavy record in multiple sense of the word. It is a fucking aggressive album. You have songs like The Wheel that just like when that song drops, the can I get a hallelujah, and it's just these they have mastered the single note riff, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And making it somehow so heavy and so fucking like just so like satisfying every time they fucking do it. And it is, you know, it is a fallback. It is something that the Idols do a lot, and I would not blame someone if they said that they don't like Idols just because they have that fallback. It's kind of the same thing. Like, you don't like King Gizzard because they have so many of those like moments, you know, the diddly doos. They fall back on it. Idols fell back on that a lot, but I think that's kind of what got them to this point. Like, people fucking loved it, you know? Not a lot of bands were doing that at the time. And this album kept everything that I loved about Idols. They kept all of the vibes, all the shit that I love, and then added so much to it and it really blew me away. They added so much post-punk influence on this that they clearly have had their whole career, but they really embraced it on this record. Like songs like "When the Lights Come On" and "Beachland Ballroom," songs like that. Like
that was a wholly different vibe, completely. And I believe that was the Kenny Beats one.
That was one of the Kenny Beats ones. He did two on this record, and I think the other one that he did was "Progress." And "Progress" is another one that, like, you listen to it and it really kind of blows your mind that it's even an Idol song.
Right. And also that it's produced by Kenny Beats, because it doesn't sound like any Kenny Beats stuff either.
No, Kenny definitely was. I think he's worked with idols in the past before, but it seems like he was going out of his comfort zone a little bit too, and it did sound like he had an influence on the songs, because there's some of the catchier ones on the record,
right?
And very different.
Yeah. And the episode of The Cave came out a week or so ago with him and Idols.
I still haven't watched it, man. I haven't. I'm so excited.
It's like it's fun. It's pretty stupid. You can tell.
I bet it's stupid.
You can tell they're kind of chill with each other.
Yeah, they must be friends by now.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm just curious what Joe Talbot did, in the studio for a fucking rap song. I'm guessing is what he made him. But, dude, really what blew me away on this record was Joe, the singer. He made this album for me.
Definitely going for a lot of things that maybe he didn't have the courage to go for before, right?
Maybe so, yeah. I mean, you have stuff like "Car Crash" that he's essentially rapping,
right,
on it.
Yeah,
and doing well.
Like, I believe it was the last song where it was like a lot of like harmonies and just like very ambient, reverby vocals.
Yeah, really fun to sing along to on a lot of this album. And he did so much actual, and I don't mean this like to be insulting, but he did a lot of actual singing on this record. Where he has that fucking Idols delivery, man. It's just angry, it's loud, it's fucking punk rock. But it's not always very nuanced, and he doesn't always do a lot of different things on a record, which might be another reason why someone might not like Idols.
Right.
I would say if that's one reason why you haven't enjoyed Idols a lot in the past, because it's just maybe repetitive, listen to this album, because he does a lot of singing on it, and he's fucking pissed, and he's struggling.
He's a crawler.
And he's literally dealing with like substance abuse and trying to be a better person and dealing with the anger and the highs and lows that come through all of that. And he takes you, the band and the music, and especially Joe, takes you through that journey on this record. And it was not something I expected, just more of the same, and I would have been completely happy with it. And I got so much more than that. And yeah, man, this is Joe's breakout album. And I would not be surprised if he does solo music after this record.
Well, remains to be seen.
Remains to be seen, man. What a dark, heavy album. And puts me in a mood, man. But it's something that I love the journey listening to this record.
For sure, yeah.
I'm not afraid to say I've cried listening to this album.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You never did it in front of me?
You want me to cry right now?
Yeah, if you could.
All right, let me find my pliers.
What are you using those for?
I usually have clamps or pliers near my computer for when I get into my me time.
Have you checked under your shirt?
I already have the nipple clamps on.
Yep. See that? I told you. You always forget.
Dude, I told you I need to buy some new ones, man. These things are losing their
losing their grip.
Yeah, they're losing grip. I need new clamps.
Look, you gotta get new ones every couple weeks. Not a lot of people know that, but you gotta keep them fresh.
That's true, especially the fuzzy ones.
Oh yeah, like they get dirty so quickly. You gotta wash them or just get new ones.
They get dirty so quick. Why are your nipples so dirty?
Hey man, don't ask questions you don't want to know the answer to.
That's that's good advice. With that said, Brett, I think it's time.
I think it's time too. And I honestly don't think there's going to be much surprise here, unless I'm mistaken.
I don't know if I'll be surprised. I don't think either of us are gonna be surprised from our number ones.
No.
I'm just
gonna go through it.
Yep.
My number
time
one?
for Choice Nugs.
It's time.
It is time. It is time for Choice Nugs.
It is time, it is time, it is time for Choice Nugs. It is time, it is time, it is time for Choice Nugs.
What's your Choice Nug, Brett? What is your number one album of the year? The people want to hear it, Brett. They're so excited.
Oh, Lucas, everyone's on the edge of their seat. Their hands are cupped behind their ears, trying to get every reverberation, every frequency into their brain that they can. And I'll tell them, sir, you should have known. You should have known what my number one was. Because it's written in the podcast. It says
in the goddamn
in
name.
the podcast title. Number one, The Resignation by RX Bandits.
Oh man. You might see me cry, Brett. You might see me cry right now.
Look, RX Bandits are one of my favorite bands of all time.
Same, dude. If not, I think they are my favorite.
This is a fantastic record by them. I don't know if it's still your favorite record, but I know it was for a very long time.
It still is, and I think it probably will forever be my favorite record.
I personally like Mandala a little better.
Because that's the first one you heard by them.
Yeah, and it also has better songs, too.
Oh, God. By the time they get to Mandala, they don't have horns anymore, so you've automatically...
Okay, well, they had
you clearly
horns.
don't know what you're talking about.
They had horns on in The Battle Begun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so horns don't always make everything better.
Well, I don't know if... I think I'm such a huge RX Bandits fan, I don't think I can admit that I don't like anything by them. Like, there's not one album that, from Progress on, that I gotta say... Like, I can't say I dislike any of them.
I can.
But The Resignation is by far my favorite.
And it was a fantastic record, and it was our first episode.
I can't believe it.
And every time I listen to it, I think about it. I think about our first episode. We go track by track. We talk about every song, the meaning behind every line. It took like 2 hours. I think it was a 2.5 hour episode before it got edited down to a nice clean 2 hours.
Oh my God, dude. And that's when we discovered audio drift.
Oh boy.
It was 2.5 hours
boy.
of every 3 to 4 minutes having to realign the audio because we didn't know what the fuck we were doing.
But you know, every tiny little edit, every little frustration, every little new vein that popped onto my forehead was worth it.
It was so worth it.
It was our first of many podcast episodes, and it's just a fantastic album that talks about a lot of really cool things, a lot of very cool lyrics, a lot of amazing drum parts, beats, fills, fantastic vocals, fantastic guitar work.
Yeah. Like
horns.
Everything. The horns are great. The riffs are fucking great. The Matt Embry's vocals, incredible.
Yeah.
Like, they forever will be my favorite vocalist. Steve Choi is an incredible like keyboardist and I think he's lead guitarist. I mean, everyone in the band is just like holding their own and all have times to shine. And you can just tell, like, to me, it just sounds like this. They locked themselves in a garage and wrote this album. There's a certain energy to the whole thing.
I mean, it was basically a lot of live work, wasn't it?
They did. That's something that when you grow up, you realize, and it's so fucking weird to like think like Blink-182 recording "What's My Age Again." They didn't record those parts at the same time. Like, it's weird to think that the band is not playing all together and recording that. You know, it's like the drums recorded the guitar recorded separately, the bass recorded separately.
That's usually how it's done. Yeah.
That's usually how it's done because, like, you know, professionally you want to nail all the notes. So like guitarists are usually sitting down while they're recording all their parts. Like you see like metal guitarists like recording their solos, and you picture them like fucking standing like in the studio just like wailing, you know, like going off. And like no, they're just sitting down in a very quiet room and just paying really close attention to what they're doing.
Got their hair tied behind their back, hair tied behind their head. Really focusing. They got their fingerless gloves on because it's a little cold in the studio.
Yeah, and they, you know, it's weird to think that bands don't record their songs live, which is what they call it, live, when they're doing it all together. And they, I mean, you can hear it on the Resignation that they're all in the same room.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if some drum, you know, gets, you know, there's some drum bleed into the fucking guitar mics, you know?
Yeah, but you know, it sounds fantastic.
Incredible.
All the pitfalls of recording like that were avoided, and they made a fantastic sounding record, man. It's my number one album that we've talked about on the podcast in 2021.
That's so cool that your number one record is the first episode we did, man. We came out the gate.
I mean, yeah, I'd be lying if I said it wasn't part of the reason why it's number one. Is that it has a lot of sentimental value.
That's part of the reason why it's my favorite record of all time. You know, and that has a lot to do with music, man. Like set and setting, or
right,
something like that. It's so huge.
I mean, yeah, just like just kind of where you are in life when you listen to this music. And this is nothing new, but like the context that you put onto an album is a huge factor in how you perceive the album.
Yeah, it is huge. And that made the big difference for me in picking these records, these top three, man. Because it was, you know, that Little Sims album hit really hard in that mood, in that setting at that time. And the times I listened to it after that, it wasn't nearly as impactful. And, you know, like music becomes your soundtrack for like certain periods of your life.
Right.
And Resignation was my soundtrack for, I'll just say, all of high school. And RX Bandits almost became like, my personality for a long time. So I am touched that you know, that we can share the love for this record, because you don't hear, or like me, you don't meet a lot of people who even know who the RX Bandits are. So
right.
Yeah, man, that's so exciting that you love this album as much as I do, man. And I didn't know that you were a RX Bandits fan until we fucking did this podcast, which was crazy.
Yeah, we kind of briefly brought it up at band practice one day. At the time, I wasn't so into them. But I've definitely gotten more and more into them throughout this year, and I'm a huge fan.
Huge
fan.
Well, man, I think it's time for my number one. And
Choice Nugs, baby Lucas, what's your choice nug?
You know me, buddy. I'm your Beluga.
You're my little baby Beluga.
I am, and I weigh half a ton.
Yeah.
And I'm always wet for some reason.
Always just kind of sweating. I assumed it was sweat, but is it not? Is it something else?
I don't know what it is.
No one really does, I don't think.
The smell is off-putting.
Now you attract like minnows from far away to kind of munch on your dead skin.
Dogs are constantly licking my legs.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's going to surprise you, man. This was, I want to look up what episode number it was, but this was my favorite song of the year. It is one that you suggested that we talk about. Mm-hmm. And it was a band that I never would have listened to had it not been for your recommendations. And this album, dude, if RX Bandits was my record or if RX Bandits was not my record that I brought to the pod, it probably would have been my number one, just for, out of respect. But this was on episode number 31, so this wasn't that long ago. It was only a couple months ago, and this album has been huge for me, and its Space is Still the Place. by Bright Light Social Hour.
Yep. You know, it's I don't know, man. That album is something else, really.
It really is, man. It was a grower, not a shower for me also, because I went into a preconceived notions on who Bright Light Social Hour were, what they were trying to do, you know, based off of, because we listened to their first record. I think that was episode like 3 or 4.
Oh yeah, very early.
And
on.
yeah, man. I went into this thinking I knew what I was going to hear, and I was going to like it. And how different this album was. It is so much more psychedelic, desert rock, trippy, atmospheric, that I did not expect that, man. And like we said it on the last episode, it's like these guys took like peyote and had
they saw some stuff.
Yeah, something changed their lives, man, because this is the desert in music form to me.
Yeah, it's a trip of an album. I am kind of glad that I made you listen to the first album first, just so you would get thrown so off guard with this one.
Yeah, I would probably hate the first record if I listened to it after this one. Because it's so much more bluesy. This has a lot less of the blues in it. And it's like, it's honestly so unique to me. Like, I haven't heard a lot of albums and songs that sound like this. Like, you want to say like an easy point of comparison for psych rock is something like Pink Floyd, but this doesn't. There's maybe one song on here that sounds like Pink Floyd. You know, like it's not all that.
No, it's something. It's calling it space rock, I think, is actually insulting.
It doesn't even capture it.
But it has that cosmic kind of feeling to it. It has that space to it. It has that, like, I don't know. It's just, it puts you in this room in your mind and you see the universe with it. Yeah. But there's still a groove there.
Think like a giant cave, like a huge domed cave. And this band is like 10 feet tall. Because the drums, this album is so huge sounding, and like the drums and the bass make it sound massive. Like it would fill a fucking like stadium and make it just reverberate.
Yeah.
Like songs like Infinite Cities and Dream Love and Sea of the Edge, like they envelop me when I listen to them. Like it makes me space out. And I just get in this album just puts me in such a relaxed mood. And it's so almost dreamy the whole time.
Right.
But they mix in like soul music and dance music and almost like house and techno at times.
Yeah, when I would listen to this record coming up on our award ceremonies, you know, you just feel, to me it has this perfect combination, this perfect balance of psych and airiness and room mixed with focus and groove and something tangible, you know, that keeps you alive in this sea of just existing.
Man, yeah, it does feel like cosmic is just such a great way to describe this album.
Yeah.
Like when I describe that cave with the dome roof, I'm picturing like a planetarium type of display on the roof where it's just nothing but galaxies and nebulas and stars, and just like this album takes me there, man. And the production's incredible. The themes are really fucking fun. Like this mix of like Afrofuturism and progressivism and all this really stoner shit, man. Like all this super just right up my fucking alley. And I just like, it's quickly becoming one of my favorite albums.
I remember talking about it on the episode where we got to the rankings and it was almost like we were fighting with ourselves, trying to find something we didn't like about this record, trying to
How
find a
close was this?
reason that it wasn't
Yeah.
a 10.
Yeah, how close was this to being a 10? There's literally nothing I don't there's nothing to dislike for me on this record.
Yeah, and in that regard, it's almost like, well, then why would we give it anything less than a 10? If we love everything about it, there's not a single thing I hate. There's really not many things I don't love about it.
Yeah.
I don't think there are any bad songs on it. I think some songs do shine more than others, but like any album is going to be like that.
Yeah, I mean, not every song on this record is a 10 for me personally, because I tire, and I'm very tired of the Black Keys-esque blues music that was so huge for so fucking long there. And there's a little bit of it creeps into this album, like on Slipstream, and maybe like a little bit of Sweet Madeline and Ghost Dance, but it's like they have so much of the psych stoner spaciness mixed in with that blues that it makes me love them, and it's like, fuck these guys.
Right. Yeah.
Man, yeah, dude, I just like, there's only a few albums in your life that I think have such an impact on you and just grab you, and it's almost like if I start a song I have to finish it. And honestly, if I listen to one song like at random from this record, I just end up listening to the whole thing.
Right.
I listen to the whole album after that, because it's like, this is the best fucking, like, light a fucking joint, sit in your most comfortable chair, put on the really good headphones, and just get lost for like 40 minutes.
Just play it from the top, man. And this thing is going to treat you so nice. It's going to cuddle. It's going to wrap you in its arms like a newborn baby. The transitions between songs are so fluid and make so much sense.
Yeah.
And the song arrangement is fantastic, keeps you interested. And it's got a great intro, Sweet Madeline, that kind of builds up through the whole song, even though it might be a little more blues.
Yeah. Amazing vocals throughout the whole album.
And a fantastic outro as well.
Amazing.
That just kind of leaves you, that kind of like you wake up from this trance and you're back in the real world. It's like, the last 40 minutes of my life, with this kind of disappeared into the cosmic realm.
Yeah, like, what happened? What just happened? God, dude, I fucking love this album. Thank you so much for forcing me to listen to it.
Oh, dude, you are so welcome. I can't wait to force you to listen to a bunch of other albums that you are going to like a lot less this next year.
I think I'm going to continue trying to bring albums that I think we would both enjoy to the pod. But if you would like to bring albums that you think are going to challenge me, I accept that challenge.
Well, I've done it before, and I'll do it again. Obviously I'm bringing a lot of albums that I think you'll like, but there have been times I've been completely off the ball. I
mean, Lizzo was a fucking a really lucky home run for you.
Yeah, I honestly
closed your eyes and swung with that one.
I thought you were gonna like Physical World a lot more than you did. I thought it's catchy.
I thought I would too, actually.
He loves catchy. It goes kind of hard. It's got an energy. It's dancey.
Yep, I like all those things.
But nope, that one was a flop on you, and that's why I'm just not gonna try with you anymore, Lucas. Because you never know what someone's gonna like.
Yeah, I don't. But you just found out, listeners, what our fucking 6 favorite records that we listened to this year were, and they're all fucking good, man. I would say a solid 85% of the albums that we've listened to this year have been good, if not fucking great.
Oh yeah, don't worry, we're gonna get into the negatives.
Yeah,
on this next episode.
We will. Yeah, we're gonna spill the tea because we try really hard to be fucking political and objective as often as we can. And we don't like shitting on things, but I'm gonna have a lot of fun shitting on stuff next week.
Oh boy, there are a couple albums, and people aren't gonna like it.
Dude, the bad ones are bad. The bad ones were bad this year.
Yep, the bad ones were bad, and I assume we're gonna find some even worse ones next year.
Oh yeah, especially if we keep doing shorties.
Oh boy.
Shit, man. I don't know. What would you rate this episode, man?
I'm going to rate this episode, man, I'm going to rate this episode a 9.6.
9.6. I'm going to rate it a 9.6.
And it's a 9.6 from all of us here at Earbud Studios. Thank you all for listening so much. Thank you for tuning into the podcast, to the YouTube channel. If you're on Patreon, I swear we'll get those rewards to you. It's just going to take another 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, we'll catch up. I mean, we have a lot of work to do. We got some catching up to do. I admit it.
But look, there's another reward, like, that you could have. That is following us on Instagram at EBPcast, Jean-Luc Guitard, Brett Hanrahan. That's another reward in a way.
Mm-hmm. What about YouTube? YouTube.com/earbudspodcast. You can see our shorties there.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that's about it on there. But yeah, man.
We got the regular episodes up there as well most of the time.
Unless something fucks up, which, I'm not going to check in on it, so I don't care.
But yeah, thank you all so much for listening. Get ready for this is the last episode of the year, right?
Yeah, it's the last episode of the year. Thank you so much for listening to us this year.
See you all in 2022. If I could have a second, I'll do this on the award ceremony too. But look, guys, New Year's resolutions, reinventing yourself. Go ahead and just make a podcast, man. Just I know you've wanted to make one. Just go ahead.
Everyone wants one. Everyone has at least one thing that they're really, really interested about. Make your podcast self-serving, man. It's been one of the funnest things that I've ever done.
Choose a topic. Choose an easy topic. Music, movies, TV shows. Don't even choose a topic. Just get your friends together and crowd around the computer mic and just go ahead and talk into that. Use a compressor. Find a 5-minute video on YouTube on how to use a compressor. That's going to change literally everything.
Yep.
For you. And just do it, man. Like, no one can stop you. You don't even have to pay for it. You could just put it on YouTube or SoundCloud or something.
And who gives a fuck if anyone listens, man? Like, if no one's listening to this right now, I'm still having a blast.
Yeah. If we cared about how many people listen to this podcast, it would have been done ages ago.
Yeah, for real. And, I check the numbers every day, but that's just because it's part of my routine. All right? You don't have to do that.
You don't got to pay attention to that stuff like Lucas does.
No, and I advise you to not. But, if you've been listening to us this year, like, dude, fucking let us know, what's your favorite album that we've talked about this year? Like, what's your least favorite? Maybe you'll give us some ideas for the next episode, which is going to be the first ever annual inaugural Nuggie Awards.
The Nuggies, we have to come up with a better name.
No, the Nuggies, that's it.
I don't know about that, but no matter what it's called, we'll see y'all there. Very fun episode, very long episode, I'm sure.
Oh, it will be. And it'll be a lot of preparation on our part. So we hope you guys listen and enjoy. And it's going to be really fun.
Yeah.
And thanks for listening to this, buddies. Brett, Good?
Good.
Bye, buddy.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.